program continues right here on Malay Broadcasting Corporation, and as you have just seen, those that understand the importance of advertising do advertise with Malay Broadcasting Corporation. Double impact. Seeing is believing. You see and you hear what exactly is happening in terms of what you're doing, be it a business, be it an organization which is non-profit, and all sorts of endeavors that you're doing in the country. If you want people to know and understand what you're doing, just come to MBC. Very reasonable rates we are going to give you for you to be able to reach out to your audience and, of course, to make that particular impact that you want in your business. All right, the program continues. Like I said, today is the 18th of May 2017, and I'm your host together with Jacqueline Katopola. But right now I have in the studios Maureen Milambe, who is coming from Health Gap. She is the project coordinator for advocacy on Global Fund and PEPFAR processes. They want to talk to us about, or she wants to talk to us on the issue of HIV Vaccine Awareness Day. Welcome, Maureen, to the program.
Thank you.
Talking about HIV Vaccine Awareness Day. What is it all about this particular day?
Right, thank you so much. So just to add to the introduction, apart from the fact that I'm working for Health Gap, I'm also a member of the VAG, the main reason why I'm here. So VAG stands for Vaccine Advocacy Resource Group, and this is a group of advocates from around the globe who are advocating for HIV vaccine research. So talking about this day, so basically this is a day that we get to recognize the efforts of the many people that are working towards finding an effective HIV vaccine. So you're talking about the professionals, the scientists, the community volunteers, because currently we don't have a proven HIV vaccine available, but there are people that are working towards finding that vaccine. So this day is set aside just to recognize, to thank them for their efforts that they're contributing towards finding the HIV vaccine. Right. Also, it's also a day just to educate the communities on the importance of HIV vaccine research. Why is it important that communities should participate in HIV vaccine research? So basically that's it about the day, but also just to say this year is very special because it marks our 20th anniversary of HIV Vaccine Awareness Day. So it's been 20 years ever since we started commemorating this day. So it's a double celebration for us, and it's a very special day for us.
All right.
Yeah, thank you.
Before I get to the next question, when we talk about objectives and goals, they always say they need to be smart, specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and time-bound. Now, the question that I want to pose here has got to do with the R, realistic. How real is the issue of finding an HIV vaccine? Or perhaps I will have to put it in a context, quantitatively, on a scale of 1 to 10. What are the chances or the possibilities of getting an HIV vaccine? And of course, within which time scale?
Yeah. So of course, you agree with me that finding a vaccine takes a lot of time. You can trace from when you look at the history of the epidemics, the vaccines that we have at the moment, like the polio vaccine, the measles vaccine, even the just recent malaria vaccine, it took a number of years to find a vaccine. Most of them were found after 10 years, even some of them more. For example, the measles vaccine was found in 47 years, and the HPV vaccine was only found in 22 years. So it takes a lot of time to find a vaccine. So for HIV, also, when you look at the history of epidemics, with new technologies, with the modern technologies, the number of years to find a vaccine also reduces with time because of the technologies that are coming in. So with an HIV vaccine, we are hopeful that maybe in 10 years, 5 to 10 years, we should be able to have a vaccine. So it's realistic and time-bound. Yeah.
Are you sure?
Yeah, very
Beautiful.
sure. Very
Beautiful.
Sure, yeah.
Now, I want to look at perhaps why do we need to have an HIV vaccine? Of what importance is it? Maybe people need to understand what a vaccine is. When I was growing up, I have to confess here, I need to admit, when I was growing up, maybe when I was 6 to 12 years, whenever someone talked about a vaccine, I thought it was the actual injection. When you talk about a vaccine, I thought it was an injection. Maybe just for the enlightenment of our viewers, what is a vaccine?
So just a basic definition of a vaccine, it is a substance that teaches the immune system how to protect itself against a virus or a bacteria. So that's the simplest definition of a vaccine that I can give you. So in terms of why we need a vaccine, I think as I've already said, when you look at the history of epidemics, we've been able to wipe out or to to combat most of the epidemics using a vaccine. Talk of the vaccine, the polio that I just talked about. So we do need a vaccine. We do need to do the same for HIV. We do need an HIV vaccine. Of course, finding an HIV vaccine is costly. As I've said, it takes a number of years. So it needs a lot of investment in human resource, financial resource, technical resources. So it takes a lot of time. But then when you find a vaccine, you find that it's the most cost effective. You know, just one dose, just one jab of a vaccine can actually provide protection for so many years compared to other prevention options, which you have to use every day. Of course, when you compare on a daily basis, you will find that maybe the others are cheaper, but in the long run, a vaccine is actually cost effective. Also, when you look at the proven prevention options that we have at the moment, indeed, they've actually helped in slowing the spread of HIV. But there are still thousands of people that are getting infected with HIV each and every day. Talking about Malawi alone, we're talking about more than 20,000 people getting infected with HIV each year, annually. That's a big number, and obviously we do need a vaccine. And also, I think it's a matter of choice. We need to provide people with a wide range of choices where they can be able to choose from. People should be able to choose a prevention option that is suitable for them. So it's also an issue of it's also a matter of providing choices to the communities out there.
All right. My last but one question before we conclude: when this particular vaccine is finally found, or when it is now, or when it becomes material, I want to find out: do you think it will be accessed for free, or perhaps there will be a cost attached to it? Since you've mentioned the issue of finding a vaccine to be quite costly, do you think it will be administered for free, and perhaps Malawians will have to stand a chance to benefit from this particular HIV vaccine?
I think to simply answer that question, it would depend on the resources available at that particular moment. I can't answer that now, but I think that would depend on that particular moment when we have found a vaccine. I think that's why it's going to determine whether that vaccine can be provided to can be accessible to the communities for free or at a cost.
You're parting short as we finalize the chat.
Okay, so I should say my message to all the people listening out there is I do believe that every one of us have something to contribute towards finding an effective HIV vaccine, including yourself. For example, if you're working for a civil society organization, you have to make sure that you're advocating for something. For instance, you have to make sure that you're advocating for increased investment in HIV vaccine research. And to our policymakers, they have a role to make sure that they're creating a conducive environment in which an HIV vaccine research can actually happen. Currently, Malawi is not participating in any vaccine trials, but we do hope that in the very, very near future, we should be able to participate in a vaccine trial. Of course, there are so many benefits that comes with participating in a clinical trial, and one of them is that once that product proves that it's effective, you become the very first beneficiaries of that product. So it's very important for Malawi to participate in a vaccine trial, and we do hope that our policymakers are going to make that possible. And lastly, if people want to find out more about vaccine about this day, they can go to www.evac.org.
All right.
Yeah.
Maureen Milambe,
yeah,
thank you very much for taking time to talk to us.
Thank you.
I wish you all the best in this particular quest to find the HIV vaccine.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Welcome.
Thank
That's Maureen Milambe, who is coming from the Health Gap, and of course, she's the project coordinator for advocacy on Global Fund and PEPFAR processes. The efforts being mentioned here are those to do with finding an HIV vaccine. One day, I do believe we shall sing that we are victorious. The HIV vaccine is going to be found. And of course, this particular scourge that is perhaps plaguing our lives shall come to an end. And this is surely my prayer. All right, we continue with our program here on Malawi Broadcasting Corporation. Right now, let